made Van Halen tick, more than anything else, was his primal approach to the social contract. I don't even know if social contract's an actual term. I use it. It's like a contract that's between us. It's tacit. It's unstated. There was always that taunting and competing and chasing each other, and then running back up our tree and saying, "I never heard you play better," or cracking a joke and going, "Hey kid, what did melody ever do to you?" This was mutual, and it was furious, and it was constant. There was conflict from day one. Massive egos. Egos big enough to fill entire football stadiums. And it wasn't because we got along so communally and lived in a teepee and all shared the same religious, quasi-spiritual basis. We weren't all Presbyterian. We weren't all followers of the new Zen. We were not all jocks. We were not all intellectuals. There was a lot of overlap. There was a lot of resentment coming from opposite ends of the sphere, you know. I was have gun, will travel. They were family-oriented, God bless. I wonder frequently what that would be like. I never experienced it. How do you describe the big aquarium until you've seen it? True love, relationships with long-time commitment, domestic bliss. I've never experienced this. So I was coming from a whole different versification. Musically, same thing. Worlds collide. Right off the bat, two entirely separate record collections and everything. But out of this, out of the ashes and the foment shall rise a great bird, the phoenix. The most beautiful orchids grow in shit. We're only at our best when we're ascending towards something. And when you're ascending, you're furious, you're focused. You have to be, or you'll fall off. So of course, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be plenty of times when you're tying a knot and someone starts tapping your shoulder going, "Hey dude, hey man, not fucking now." And that's all it is, that kind of conflict. Van Halen had that. Everybody was ascending. We were not afraid of change. We were not afraid of defying convention, breaking the rules. If you think back to the way that we looked in the late 70s, this was the age of the Deep Sabbath, Black Purples, whatever it was. I've been up since the late 60s, and I eat once a week whether I need it or not. That school of thought. We showed up with our cool little designer pants that we'd bought in Paris on the Champs-Élysées, in our high-heeled shoes and with our hair styled and everything. Oh man, we defied all convention. The media, the rock critics squealed like wieners on a barbecue. Wholly unacceptable. Wholly unacceptable. We weren't afraid to try anything. We weren't afraid, and there was constant conflict on which way to defy. It was healthy. To me, it was the equivalent of smacking each other on the helmets before the kickoff in a football game. It's a version of support. It's how you show love. This was the basis for our relationship, and there are entire families that are based on this. I understood it intrinsically. I think they did too. If that conflict gnawed away at all of us constantly, out of it came earth-shaking, culture-changing music. We sold hope and faith and a jubilation right on par with a lot of your favorite religions. Right on par with a lot of your favorite politicians. We sold the idea of imagination, extreme imagination, forced to the breaking point. The Van Halens are very technically oriented. Their father was a trained musician. They were classically trained and always looking for the perfect. Well, my favorite jeans got a lot of holes in them. My favorite boots do not look new. Why would I be any different? And we were at each other's throats constantly. But out of learning all these different kinds of music to play in the clubs and the bars came a signature sound. Nothing else like it. I had to learn to stop dancing, which means don't get up there and disco dance, communicate. Look people in the eye and really tell the story. If you have something physically that you're going to do, use it as a means of communication. How many times have you gone and seen the latest pop diva or whomever doing choreographed steps? There's a limit to how many of those you can do in a 2-hour show without running out of gas. Because at some point, you're keeping up instead of leading the way. At that point, do they drop their heads, look at the floor, and act like they're dancing at the local saloon? That's just dancing. It communicates nothing. Stop dancing means that when you close your eyes, are you truly lost in the moment? Or is that just a cool look for this part of the song? Little red light pops up on the video camera and you close your eyes and you look up toward 11 o'clock. Hey, there's a balance. I'm a very imbalanced individual. I know that. That's all I know. Progress report, sir? Well, the good, sir, is that we know exactly the extent of the damage. The bad, well, we haven't the vaguest idea how to remedy it. But at least we know. Edward, as well as Alex, was so adept at music, it was a whole new alphabet, starting with the sound. He had called it the brown sound. I called it girl-friendly sound, which essentially means when you take an electric guitar, you can make it squeal and lunch it and dive bomb it and angst and strain and all those great words. But the tone has to be there, rich with depth, with character. So even in the super high registers, you're not putting your hands over your ears. And the first people who will do that are women. So you got to get it so it's girl-friendly, to where you can really pitch and squeal and make points and edges. But at the same time, it is, now I am strong, now I have full power. Tone is a direct result of your personal character, I think. And that tone will come out of your guitar regardless of the equipment you use. You will fiddle about with the electronics until you have the perfect representation in your mind of who you are, whether you know it or not, especially if you know it not. Edward's not a very complex human being, so that sound is not very complex. But there's substance in terms of all the basic emotions. He doesn't have a lot distracting him. Some say simplicity is ultimate. I do. Just like sex, who you really are will come out when the lights go down or up. That sound you build for yourself through your choice of amplifiers and guitars and so forth is a demonstration of that. Regardless of how a song was written through, the key to the Van Halen sound is that it was live in the studio. Even the echo effects and such on the guitar were Ed operating a foot switch on his amplifier. In the 90s, if you went to do that, most producers would just flip. No, play it dry, we'll put echo and reverb and so forth on later. Because you have a million variations of that in these little huge 48-track consoles. Plus you have digital consoles now that are 150 tracks. You can compile the tracks and whatnot. But it's not life. It's after the fact. It becomes something other than in the live group playing together ensemble. It becomes kind of a cut and paste and think about it later, and certainly not tested in front of human beings. It was a great thing to be able to test your music and see if the message you were transmitting was being received, to see if the people were responding the way that you responded to it when you heard it. Because if they weren't, there might be a difficulty in the lyric. There might be a problem in the format of the song. If you're trying to impart extreme hilarity or complete erotic something or other, and you're getting confused looks, it's probably in the transmission. It's great to be able to play that in front of people. And of course, in front of people, it's all in the saddle. You have to be able to do it all right there. Hit the switch. Throw on the echo, hit the switch, turn it off. Be able to hit that high note as opposed to going and resting for an hour and then coming in and trying to hit the high note 30 times in a row and picking the best one. You can't do that live. But the very finest Van Halen material is performed absolutely live in the studio. All of those first albums. And the best material in the later albums was completely live, including the solo, including the echo that was on the individual instruments. And we played each song 3 or 4 times. We would pick the best version, but almost inevitably the very first version would be the best because we weren't thinking about it. You can fool yourself with this, we're just warming up rationale. You'd be absolutely distraction-free, fear-free, and it would land every time. Once you start thinking, okay, I got a little trouble spot right around this chorus right here, I'm going to have to be careful of that, I'll watch for that, that's on your mind. Suddenly you have a distraction. It's a hindrance. It was very pure because there was very little done later except to rearrange the volumes of the individual instruments. Let's turn up the guitar. Let's turn it down. We can't quite hear the voice here, so let's turn it up. Let's turn it down, whatever. That was the extent of it. Go back and listen to these songs with that in mind. Most of the vocals were recorded at the same time that the band played the music. I went into a vocal booth and we would look at each other through the glass windows and I would sing the song directly. It would take an hour to go back and fix a little piece here and there, something that was awful, a hole in your jeans that threatened to lose the leg. Yeah, you'd have to fix that up a little bit, but otherwise, left it as were. It was a complete slap in the face to what was popular in terms of recording. Either you took the BG approach and really refined it and polished it and went over it and over it and over it and did it piece by piece and stacked it up, or you took the punk rock approach, which was no polish, no effort towards sophistication or finesse, just kind of hammer away. And we used a beautiful combination of the two. It was recorded on very simple equipment, 24 track at the max, sometimes 16 track. We spent most of the time in the studio attempting to recreate the actual sound of the band out of the speakers that were in the studio. You think, well, yeah, you just set up a microphone, right? And it comes out sounding like it normally does. Wrong. You have a choice of 5,000 different kinds of microphones, 5,000 different kinds of coaxial cable, 5,000 different filters, noise filters, 5,000 different kinds of channeling systems. Soon as you introduce even one of those into the formula, you've altered the sound. It doesn't sound like it did when you're sitting right in front of it. The natural sound was searched out to such an extent that, for example, when it was time to sing Jamie's Crying, I had taken special good care of myself. I'd watch what I was eating, I watched that I was exercising, and I didn't smoke any cigarettes, nothing. Walked in, started singing. Ted Templeman, the producer, said, "Dave, it doesn't sound the same. It sounds like it's not you. It's not real. It's like it's been worked on something. Did you do something different?" I said, "Yeah, well, I didn't smoke any cigarettes and really made sure of what I had for breakfast." He said, "Well, go outside and smoke a joint. Somebody ordered this guy up a cheeseburger." I went out and sat in a little basketball court area outside of Studio A, I think it was, at Sunset Sound Recording on Sunset Boulevard. And I ate half a cheeseburger, drained a soda pop, and smoked half a joint. Walked in, knocked out Jamie's Crying in 40 minutes.